On the political situation in Uganda, the European Union Parliament deplored that the 14th January general elections in Uganda were neither democratic nor transparent. Members of the European Union Parliament also condemned the excessive use of force by the police and armed forces during the election and their growing interference in political affairs.
You're met with violence and terror by your own government forces who are supposed to protect you. People are shot, arrested, opposition leaders are under house arrest, and worse. Do you trust the government the next day after such elections? Does the world trust that government the next day after such elections? We need to stop talking in riddles and agree on the fact that the 14th January election in Uganda ran against any policy of a free, safe, and equal election.
The resolution condemned the violence, continued harassment, and systematic crackdown faced by political opposition leaders in Uganda, as well as the suppression of civil society.
Fired because hundreds of other people were injured. So let us say it out loud. The elections in Uganda were neither peaceful, nor free, nor fair. Taking note of the results, as you did, Mr. Vice President, simply means accepting the result. Dear colleagues, if we do not act now, the shrinking of the democratic space will be more and more visible. This is something we see all over the world. We find ourselves being more and more an island of democracy and human rights. But we should be a standard for democracy and human rights.
They also advised that all those arrested and detained for participating in peaceful political assemblies or for exercising their right to freedom of expression and association must be released immediately and unconditionally and have their charges dropped.
This is absolutely unacceptable and runs counter to democratic principles. Once again, we must not sit by and close our eyes when citizens of a state are deprived of their fundamental rights and call for help from us. They're asking for external help and indeed our support, and we have to proffer that support. Free and fair elections, just as the rights of freedom of expression, freedom of the press, are prerequisites for sustainable development. Nevertheless, we would like to congratulate the Ugandan people.
Finally, Parliament has reiterated that sanctions against individuals and organizations responsible for human rights violations in Uganda must be adopted under the new European Union Human Rights Sanction Mechanism, the so-called EU Magnitsky Act.
The crisis cannot be a pretext to allow the Ugandan government to introduce laws which violate international law and violate the rights of citizens, including LGBTI citizens. We call on the Ugandan government to respect the dignity of individuals, and they facilitate the return for people to the cradle of creation.
He managed to fool everyone, global leaders, international organizations, even the European Union. What happened in Uganda before the elections is unthinkable in any country that we call democratic. Blocking access to the internet and social media prior to the election day is unacceptable. It leaves people in the darkness of disinformation. Bobi Wine, Uganda's opposition leader who conducted peaceful protests in order to condemn that the poll was rigged, has been put under house arrest for several days. Neither media nor party officials were allowed to access his home. Is that a fair chance? Is that a fair fighting chance?
The text was approved by 632 votes in favor, 15 against, and 48 abstentions. This report has been compiled by Issa Chigongo for Channel 44 Prime News.